We've talked about the MP3 framework a lot, but we realized going through this process and writing this 6,000 word mini book is that there was a new framework that we needed to create in order to like bridge that gap or like enable the MP3 framework.
Yep.
And that became CP3. We really tried to push the CP3O. We know
we tried so
hard to make that work. I guess like the O could have been offer. I don't know. We didn't.
Or it could just be like, okay.
It could just be on with it. Anyway, so CP3. So if you know MP3 as market the problem, market the process, market the proof, the CP3 is clarify the problem, clarify the person, clarify the process. And this was something that we had done a lot of intuitively, but we had never put some boundaries on it and made it a thing. And doing that became the bridge that links like the offer design to the content creation and makes all that shit work.
Yeah. Let me set the stage a bit before we go into the details about why this is important, because a lot of people think that they can just go straight into marketing and that the content is going to be the fix that they need to grow their business. We just need to market. And we're going to, even if we follow Nick and Erica's biasedly brilliant framework and market the problem, person, and process, like it's going to be great. Pipeline's going to grow. Here's the problem. Content, and this is coming from a content person, okay? Content without clarity is absolutely pointless. It can actually make things worse because you are out there framing a problem that you haven't really gotten the clarity on, sharing a process that kind of sucks and you probably kind of hate actually a lot of the work you do. So how are you sharing? Like the process is all over the shop. And the proof that you're sharing is for like ICP over here on one end of the spectrum. And then, oh, I also help this person over here that does something completely different with a different problem. And it is confusing. People don't know what to tether or anchor you to. They don't know what your superpower is and what your core competency is. And marketing, great content, no matter how good it is, can't solve for that problem. It just cannot. And so we were trying to say with the recognition gap that we started the book by thinking, well, this is why people get stuck in it. And the way for people to know more about you so that you don't just have to rely on referrals is the MP3. And as we were working through it, we were like, hang on. There's a step before this. Because Nick and I, while we do this together for people in our offer, if we're helping people that are going to be reading this and trying to do things on their own as well, you cannot go straight to marketing. You have to get clarity before and during and always. By the way, it never ends. Go ahead, Nick. Jump in.
I'm jazzed because what you're describing is like probably a good scenario for someone who is like really willing to act.
Yeah.
Because they're like, they see the MP3, they're like, this makes sense in between my ears. And so therefore I want to do it. And then they go and do it. And then, but oftentimes we see is that people go, I don't know what problem to market. I don't have a process to market. And I certainly like don't have the type of proof that I would feel confident marketing.
Right.
So someone who has done all the things in the way that you described, like that is a great situation and that you are really trying. And I respect that greatly. But most of the case is that if you don't go through the clarity process, you kind of hit like, okay, market the problem. You're like, now what? Like we get a lot of questions from people that are just like, how do I do that? It is bizarre what happens once you see it.
Yeah. Or you're marketing a problem that no one's really responding to. And
wrong
then
problem.
It's like, oh, is this the wrong problem? This is why we came together in the first place, because people were coming to me for my content offer and all of them had CP3 problems.
Right. What we end up seeing as an offer problem generally.
Yeah.
And then people would come to the conclusion of my program and they would have content problems, like an MP3 problem. And I'm like, Okay, so I mean, we've talked about this.
Yeah, we talked about this
a
a million
lot in the
times, yeah.
past, so don't need to go into it any further. But so clarity is key, because once you see it, you can't unsee it. That's generally how this goes. So once you see and you have the clarity of what problem you're trying to solve, who you're trying to solve it for, how you actually solve it, or how you more practically can solve this problem in a way that's not like super bespoke, in that it is more so like the process thing gets people all the time. I want a process that's easy to understand, right? I just want a simple arc. That's what people care about. The more you do it, the more you it will become. But I don't want to like get hung up on that. So anyway, so the clarity enables good marketing, and that's where we're at. So let's talk about the CP3. Clarity on the problem, the person, the process. So how do you gain clarity on the problem you solve?
That is the question of life, Nick.
It is. Well, I think we start with I urge people to start with like, one is pattern matching. And a lot of times I'll refer to it as like problem mining, because I think where we get turned around is that we feel this sense of guilt that like the things come easy to us.
Yep.
When you do a thing and you're like, oh, it wasn't that hard, so I can't charge a lot for it. But it's hard, we have to remember that you're paid for your vantage point.
Yep.
The fact that you can see and pattern match across multiple clients or throughout your category or industry or whatever, wherever you're working, and design a solution to solve it, like, or to see the problems among all the businesses, like that vantage point is extremely valuable. And that's generally where we start to try to find clarity. All of your clients, the ones that you like working with, the good fit ones, will generally have a set of overlapping problems. And now it's not that we solve one problem. I mean, it's good to roll them all up and name them, but that's like ultimate. The best thing is, the more realistic thing is that it is a web of problems. There's many interconnected problems, and it's up to us to decide like how we order them and help people understand them and how we communicate that. Because we're all kind of just going for the most compelling framing. Oftentimes the sale is dependent on, does the buyer agree with the way you see it? They're like, yeah, that's how I see it too. Or can you get somebody to see it that way? And everyone's trying to solve a lot of the same stuff, and that's okay. But that's why the framing matters. Because if people can't relate with your framing, then it's probably you're gonna struggle.